we're sponsored by BetterHelp. Think about the people who inspire you most. Well, guess what? They don't have all the answers, but they do know how to ask for support when they need it. Therapy is a great way to find that support. BetterHelp has experienced therapists ready to help. Visit betterhelp.com/super today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/super. Hey, brother, and welcome everyone to another reaction video where this time we are reacting to our Wicked theories from late last year.
Yes, so this past weekend we had the opportunity to go up to New York City with our wives and actually take in the play in real life, which is like one of the acceptable ways that we felt we could go and continue to understand more about what was going on inside of the world of Wicked.
Yes, but last December we made Wicked's mini theories episode where we were in this weird in-between state where we'd seen part 1 in the movie, but not part 2. So even though the information was out there, we were just choosing to ignore it. But now we've seen it.
I know.
Yeah.
This has been like one of the most unusual things that I feel like we've ever done as a channel before, because we're uniquely in this place where many viewers at home know the answers. Like,
right.
It is Googleable information. You can just go and if you so choose, know what happens next. However, we have not permitted ourselves that. We've done a really good job staying away from all of the spoilers.
Yes, we have. Until now. So in case you're wondering, there will be spoilers in this video for part 2 if you're holding out to see the movie or something. So just so you're aware, if that's the case, just bookmark this video. Come back to it later.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Next November. It'll be great. We'll still be here.
But we're going to dive in, see where we were right, where we were wrong, and where maybe we made guesses that the movie didn't even address. I want to say there was a lot of things we were right about, but maybe like our reasoning or like how they were going to get there was wrong.
Yes, there are a couple of turns that I think happen very quickly at the beginning of Act 2 that start to like lay the landscape for how all of the things will transpire. And because those were details that we could not have known, it made it very difficult to kind of layer into some of our predictions. But we were still close.
We will. So without any further ado, let's dive on in and see how we did.
Wait, so does that mean that I am Galinda and you are Elphaba?
Why is that?
The intro. You're green. I got pink a 5.
You can call me Jelphaba.
I'll do it.
Belinda.
Yeah. I dropped the buh.
Just Blinda.
Now it's just Blinda.
Blinda. The buh is silent.
The buh is silent.
Well, you have the pink glasses. Pretty cool too.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
All right, well, let's see. We're going to play the video here, and here we go.
Theory number 1, right out of the gate. Fiero will become the Scarecrow.
Well, right out of the gate, we nailed it.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
This is one that I think is, and I'm sure that you're about to discuss it inside of this old video, but like inside of like that opening number that he has, Dancing Through Life, I feel like he on numerous occasions is alluding to this idea of like mindlessness, brainlessness.
Yeah, he's like, life is painless for the brainless, life is fraughtless for the thoughtless.
Yes.
So, in fact, this does come to pass. Fiero is indeed the Scarecrow.
From The Wizard of Oz. One of Dorothy's
What was our
companions,
reasoning?
If you haven't seen The Wizard of Oz, I don't believe you. Like right away, it's so weird doing this. Like, because either you're sitting there thinking like, duh, is that even a theory? Isn't that just like obvious? Or you're sitting there like, well, no, that's an odd take. I wonder how we got there. And I don't know. I'm wandering around.
So in fact, people were like, yep, that's obvious. You got it right away.
Yes. So and I mean, I think obviously, like, Wicked is sort of like an accompaniment to The Wizard of Oz. So I like what I think is kind of interesting, at least from the, like, while I was going into Wicked and not having, like, really recently been reacquainted with The Wizard of Oz, is that, like, it didn't necessarily occur to me that we were going to be getting origin stories for each of these characters.
No, I didn't think of that either when we went to see Wicked. Like, I thought it was going to be just sort of, like, way beforehand.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't necessarily, like... But I suppose once you see like the scared lion show up at some point,
you're
it's
like, okay.
Maybe there's more going on with this type of thing. But that probably is going to come down from viewer to viewer and what your relationship is with the show as to whether or not this was the kind of thing where it was like, yeah, guys, like obviously, like you need to assign each of the Scarecrow, the lion, and the Tin Man
The Tin
to
Man,
3
yeah.
of the characters that we see on screen, and then process of elimination is very quickly going to get you down to like the 3
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, who it's going to end up being. What I'm curious about, though, is that, well, we'll talk about it more later, but like things that I think they will need to change things in part 2 of the movie to make it make like a cinematic universe make sense kind of situation. If they're trying to connect it to the Wizard of Oz movie as opposed to like make it like a recreation theatrically from. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Anyway, here we go.
Dark room, and you know where the door is, and I don't. But you can either see that like I clearly went straight to it, or that I'm just way off, and you're like, oh, well, why is he there?
Oh my!
Well, glad you asked. Okay, so there are 2 main clues I think that foreshadow this happening. First are some of the lyrics in Fiero's song, Dancing Through Life, a song in which he's trying to educate his fellow students that working hard is kind of pointless because life is painless when you're brainless, and life is fraughtless for the thoughtless.
Yeah, so we pretty much nailed that right away.
Yes. So that is very clear, absolute like foreshadowing setup for what is about to
Yes, because his whole thing is if I only had a brain. Yeah.
And these 2 lines stand out like a sore thumb if you rewind or I guess fast forward, whichever one you like, to The Wizard of Oz. And the Scarecrow's big musical number is If I Only Had a Brain.
Oh, well, there we go.
That's the trouble. I can't make up my mind. I haven't got a brain.
So yeah,
I would say, okay, it'll become more apparent, but it is not obvious to me. Like they show how he becomes the Scarecrow in the musical, which is like Elphaba casting a spell on him. It is not obvious to me why he is like so forgetful in it, or like she's sort of like. It's one of those things where like, I want to see if they change that in the movie or if maybe I just missed it in the stage play because like she's like casting the spell, but she doesn't even seem like she's entirely sure what it's going to do or like how it will affect him.
Right. And you're kind of getting like a very unusual like kind of peek behind the curtain, I guess, if you will, as to like all of these decisions that Elphaba is making and how it's much more layered than would originally maybe meet the eye.
Yeah.
Like there is a lot more going on with that. But I do think what is fascinating about what the movie is going to be able to provide relative to the stage production is that like normally when you have like a book to film adaptation, the film must leave things out from the book. But this is going to be a rare occasion where the film is actually going to have more time, more opportunity to expand upon the story and really kind of like give you more details, which if anything, I would say having seen Act 2, I feel like is maybe like marginally needed.
Oh, to its benefit, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, because that's like I loved the show in person.
Oh, of course.
But like when you're watching like even just Act 1, I was like, oh my gosh, the movie added so many things.
Yes.
And in a good way.
Right.
Yeah. So well, let's continue here.
Brain is what the Scarecrow is hoping to ask the wizard for when they reach Emerald City. But the other big point in Wicked is the introduction of the baby lion in Dr. Dillamon's class. The lion is described as being very afraid and is later set free by Elphaba and Fiero in the forest where he undoubtedly grows up to be the Cowardly Lion. I mean, that much I'm like 1,000% on.
Dude, as this was happening, when we were watching the stage show, I could hear like mom and dad talking because mom had seen the show and dad hadn't. And dad was like, oh, is that the Cowardly Lion? And she was like, no, it's not. And I was like, no, that can't be.
But like mom was just trying to protect dad from like getting spoilers.
Yes, mom was protecting him. And I was like, if that's not the Cowardly Lion, like that's like, there's no way. Like what?
That would be a major twist, a huge misdirect.
That would be such a huge misdirect. I was like, if that's not true, everything we said is wrong.
So, okay, tell me if I missed this then in the stage production. Is there a reason why the Cowardly Lion grows up to be like anthropomorphic?
I don't know. I think it's like I'm curious how they will portray him in the movie because like obviously in The Wizard of Oz he's like anthropomorphic, but then like Dr. Dillamond is just like a regular goat.
Oh, this is a good point. A good point. Yeah, so maybe it's more just like a lion that is capable of speaking. I follow. That's
but then in The Wizard of Oz he is like an upright talking one, you know?
Right.
So I don't know exactly how they'll handle it, if it would be like a Lion King situation where he just looks like a talking lion, or you don't even really see him in the Broadway show. You just see like the Tin Man pulling on his
like
tail
from like
it's just
sort of like off stage.
Yeah, it's sort of like, oh, that was okay, cool. But yeah, they don't have like the costume person come out or anything.
That's right, yeah.
So I guess we'll just see how they handle it.
That is very important, because if they're introducing the origin of the lion, then they're almost also definitely introducing the origin of the rest of Dorothy's companions. And
yes, they are.
Once you contextualize it like that, Fiero is the clear fit for the brainless scarecrow. Also, not for nothing, but Fiero means fiery man, and in Wizard of Oz, he does keep catching on fire.
Oh man, that was a very good point. Yeah,
I love that.
Good
yes.
for us. Yeah, I think yes, that's exactly what they were going for. All right.
So then the follow-up question is, why does he become the Scarecrow? And I imagine it will have to do with love. Namely, that while Galinda and Fiero are something of an item in part 1, it's pretty clear that Fiero and Elphaba also have a very strong connection. And it's so clear to Galinda that it prompts her to change her name to just Glinda before departing to the Emerald City with Elphaba. But then when they get to the Emerald City, Elphaba is almost immediately painted as the Wicked Witch. So the question is, how will Fiero respond to this? Will he continue to trust and accept her? Or, as Elphaba puts it to Glinda, will he grovel in submission to feed his own ambition?
Boy, it's almost a little of both.
Yes, he is very, very quickly going to be like escalated. You know, he's going to become like a prominent figure. Him and Glinda's relationship is going to be majorly center stage as far as the rest of Oz is concerned.
Yeah, like maybe more than he's comfortable with. It seems like he accepts that his position is being elevated, but is like only because he feels like it is going to help him get back to being closer to Elphaba the whole time.
It's like what he is being tasked with doing is tracking down and finding Elphaba.
Yeah.
But like he is doing it for a very different reason.
And the only way he is able to get himself into a position where he's the one responsible for that is by keeping up this facade of a relationship with Glinda.
Yes.
Yes, which then she's of course upset about, and he's like, I think he feels bad because he's just like, oh yeah, all right. And he keeps giving her all these very good like political answers still, like when she's like, but do I make you happy? And he's like, oh, I'm always happy. I was like, oh, that was sneaky. That was good. That was very well done there, sir. But let's see, what did we say in the original video?
Based on the outcome, I think we can say it's probably the latter, and that it's a brainless move if ever we saw one.
Okay, so we got this wrong.
Yes.
That like he's just like, oh, whoops, never mind, you're wicked, I need to stay over here, because he actually does stay way more aligned with Elphaba.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because we thought this was going to be more like a scorched earth type situation. Like Elphaba was going to be very upset at the way that he just basically like 180s his opinion of her super quickly, and that is almost like what causes her to be like, okay, you're brainless, I'll make you brainless.
Exactly. Like if you're going to act brainless, I'll make you brainless.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I don't know.
And so Elphaba will cast him a truly brainless job and existence as a scarecrow for the rest of his days.
Boom. Well, that's what I'm about to say, I think. Hold on.
Boom. All right, guys.
Okay, so that's not what happens. She does turn him into a scarecrow, but not like in an effort to make him like brainless. Basically, what's happening is that the palace guards have come to arrest Elphaba. They kind of have her cornered, and it looks like they're going to get her. But then he swoops in and like makes them back off so she can get away. And then they capture him, and she's afraid that they're going to kill him. So she opens up the grimoire and starts casting a spell to like make him like unkillable.
Yes.
I guess but she like they keep saying like the magic is weird and mysterious, and so she doesn't really know what's gonna happen.
It's very similar to like Merida's mother in Brave, where it's like she wants her to change, and the way that she has changed is by being turned into a bear.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't change her opinion the way that she wants it to change her opinion. It changes who she is.
Yeah, what she is.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what so basically the spell ends up turning him into a man of straw who then cannot be killed, which happens over and over in the Wizard of Oz. They like pull all the straw out and then they just have to stuff him back together and he's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but I guess maybe his brain goes with it or his like memories go with it. That's something I'm like, did she say that while she was casting the spell? Because like every time she would do it, she would like lean down down and like her voice would go here, and then there was a bunch of other stuff happening behind her,
right?
As she was reading the book. So I'm like, maybe there was something about his brain in there. I don't know, but that's something I feel like they could expound upon in part 2 of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
As now we need to take a brief pause to give a huge.
Oh, are we stopping for the ad break? I guess. Maybe we'll stop for an ad break.
Today's episode is sponsored by Shopify.
Ben, I kind of missed the days back before I knew how easy it was to start a new business with Shopify, because back then you would always have these crazy ideas for a business and I'd be like, oh no, it's too hard to start. But now...
I call it the Ghoster. It's an invisible toaster, so you can actually see your bread being toasted in real time.
So now, if you had ideas like that in the past, I would have just said yes. Question though, what is it made of?
Ghosts, obviously.
Oh, okay. Well, you see the problem though, right?
I like to think that the data will speak for itself.
But what is it made of?
Ghosts.
Right, but
obviously.
But you see the problem, right? Or
Jay,
don't see it.
I think the data is going to speak for itself.
You're right, and I think we all know what it's going to say. But speaking of data, that is something Shopify offers in such massive quantities. It doesn't matter how you want to dissect your sales.
It's true though, and as long as you don't have a naysayer of a business partner, you'll be off to the races in no time.
Yeah, upgrade your actually good business ideas and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/SCB, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/SCB to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/SCB.
I'm just going to go ahead and secure ghoster.com just to be safe. Did it pop on you?
Yeah.
It does that sometimes.
Yeah, it's caught me by surprise.
Yeah, the scare is part of the experience.
That you should have led with that.
You starting to get it?
I get it. Yeah. Okay, I'm in. Secure that.
And we're back!
Hey! Welcome.
Then I started wondering that if the Scarecrow and the Lion were being introduced, then obviously the Tin Man would be as well. And if so... who would that be?
Yep.
And I'll admit, it feels like less obvious than the Scarecrow, and yet, process of elimination basically demands that Bach will be the Tin Man.
And indeed, Bach is the Tin Man.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Although, the amount of things that change and the speed at which they change, as far as the characters and how we know them exactly, is pretty rapid in Act 2.
It is. It is like fast forwarding through oh man, Bach's the Tin Man. Oh, here's the Scarecrow. Look, here's the Lion. Go get her.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's happening real fast here. So I think that's something, I think that will benefit from being slowed down a little.
Absolutely,
in the movie, which I
process
suspect
of elimination, because other than the Wizard, he's really the only other significant male character in the show, unless you also want to count Galinda's hyper-vapid friend Fanny, who is hilarious, but I don't think he's the Tin Man. And Bach does...
Not even... Well, I don't know. I suppose there was a character for him on stage, but it was not... he was portrayed very differently.
Yes, I would say the way that this character is built out in the movies is another one of those good additions that you kind of got these two people who are just playing that it almost reminds me of people from the Capitol role in the Hunger Games.
Absolutely.
They're sort of obsessed with all of the wrong things maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good one. Another one that I thought was very different from the stage production to the film was just Madame Marble.
Oh, absolutely. She's very sassy on stage.
Yes, absolutely. Very different kind of persona in the film.
Absolutely. And she has a little theory we'll come back to here in a second, I think.
It'll fit the mold. I mean, the Tin Man, if you'll recall, in Wizard of Oz, is looking for a heart.
No heart? No heart.
Which is, of course, very noble, and he just wants to be able to feel things. He even specifically mentions jealousy and devotion. Well, I don't know who actively wants to feel jealous about things, but good for you, Tin Man, I guess. But this
is one of the things, the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz does not line up with how Bach is acting in Act 2.
Yes, I would certainly agree with that. You've got Bach's whole situation basically is that you're going to have Nessa Rose take this massive 180.
Yeah.
Once Elphaba is declared the Wicked Witch of the West, then it is just heartbreaking for their father, who is the governor, and so he dies.
Dies of embarrassment.
Dies of embarrassment.
Yeah.
And then Nessa Rose basically is required to step up. And I think at this point in time, she's just like, you've taken everything from me. Like, I'm going to rule with this like kind of iron fist mentality. And it's like,
Right.
okay, that was not like, that was
Yeah.
the main thing. I was like, I did not expect that.
Yeah, she gets like very mad at Elphaba, and then but as far as her opinion about Bach is she's still like, yep, this is happening.
Yes.
We're in love, right, Bach?
Yes.
Kind of, and he's very much just still enamored with Galinda, despite the announcement to her engagement to Fiero.
Right.
And that part did not even read as like it makes sense to me because they've had like 3 conversations.
Yes,
and he's just like, I have to tell her how I feel, and you're like, she does not care about you at all.
It's a definite infatuation situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, not love.
But like extremely, because
Yes.
otherwise he's like otherwise married to Nessa Rose, or not married, but they're like together, I guess. Yeah.
Both things he definitely feels for Galinda. Like he literally tells her, I'd do anything for you. So
This is something that like when I think back about the movie, now I just need to probably go give it like another pass again just to be sure. Like it's obvious that he liked Galinda first.
Yeah.
And that like he's asking Nessa Rose because Galinda basically like was like, this would make me happy if you did that. And he's like, okay, I'll do
yeah.
anything that makes you happy. But like I still felt like the like proposed chemistry in the film suggested that they were like having a great time together, Nessa Rose and Bach.
Yeah. It seems like they're at the dance because she tells him that like, you know, someone would be my hero if they were to ask that girl to come with us tonight.
Right.
Or whatever. And he goes and does it because he'll do anything for her. And then they get there and he can tell he's sort of been like, oh, well, now I'm sort of stuck with Nessa and I really planned on, you know, I did the thing. I'm your hero, right? Like, look what I did.
Right.
And he walks over, or he's about to go walk over, and that's when she sees Fiero and Galinda kissing. And like he I think at that moment he's just sort of like, he like does have a bit of a change of heart and is like, you know what? Actually, Nessa, you're awesome. Let's just have fun.
Yes.
And then it seems like he has like a flare of interest in her, but it goes right back away.
Yes, and I think that's the thing that maybe threw me a little bit like when I was watching the film because it seems much more authentic, but then on stage it's like at no point like Bach seems only and exclusively into Galinda pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I think you're right. That was maybe a little bit more obvious.
that's the devotion. And then the reason he asks Nessa to dance at the ball is out of jealousy when he sees Galinda and Fiero kiss.
Oh, thank you,
and
me,
while
for
the Tin
explaining
Man's
that as
quest
well.
for heart is very optimistic, if you were to call an actual person heartless, it would mean that they seem incapable of emotion or caring for others. And gotta say that even though Galinda shows no interest in him and Nessa is basically in love with him, Bach is clearly still pining for Galinda at the train station. I can see how Nessa might suddenly think of Bach as heartless if she finds out that he asked her out under false pretenses, lied to her about it, got her hopes up, and then is still hoping to end up with the girl who manipulated the entire situation to begin with.
I mean, that's pretty much exactly what happens.
It is pretty much exactly what happens, except the position of power with Nessa Rose has shifted rather significantly.
Oh, absolutely it has. And I'm not sure she finds out about being asked out under false pretense, but like at some point, like, so what happens is Elphaba comes back and she gets Nessa Rose is really mad at her because she's like, you've had all these powers and you're helping all these animals, but not once have you come back to try and help me, you know, your sister who can't walk.
Right.
Or whatever. And she's like, oh, it's not like that. I don't know how it works. But then she sees the slippers and she's like, wait, maybe I do have something. And she casts a spell which powers up the slippers, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then Nessa can walk. And then she's like, look, Bach, I'm cured. Don't you love me now? And he's like, you're cured. This changes everything. Now you don't need me.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and then once she finds out that to him is like his hall pass to like go tell Galinda how he feels and just like officially break up with her.
Right. But then is it Nessa Rose who casts the Tin Man spell on him?
Yes.
So she is magical.
So she is magical. So yeah, because Elphaba has the grimoire there and she looks down and it turns out she can read it. So she turns him into like someone who doesn't need a heart to live. Or something. What does she say? She's like, I'll make, like, if you're, be heartless for me or something. She says something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but then she turns him into the Tin Man who can live without a heart.
Right.
Yes. Which then, that makes more sense that he's heartless. So we're pretty much on track with this one.
Right? Like, what's Nessa gonna do about it? Like, she's not magic, right? Or is she?
But she is.
Maybe? Bear in mind that in The Wizard of Oz, the whole reason the Wicked Witch is after Dorothy is because she landed a house on and killed her sister. And in Wicked, Elphaba's sister is Nessa, pretty much ensuring that Nessa is also the Wicked Witch of the East, who the Munchkins at the beginning of Wizard of Oz are extremely happy is dead.
So that goes back in the play. Then you see that once Bach is turned into the Tin Man and wakes up and realizes that, he's a Tin Man and not a person, he turns on Nessa real hard.
Yes.
And just basically starts spreading propaganda about her to the Munchkins, saying, like, we got to take her down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, the thing that I think I was a little bit lost by was like what they're doing, and the reason why Madame Morrible, who controls the weather, is sort of like, directing this house at the Munchlings is because they are like attempting to draw Elphaba out by causing what is perceived to be damage,
right,
to Nessa Rose.
Yes,
but like this is another one of those where I was like, it almost seems like the plan is like make it seem like something happened to Nessa Rose and that'll bring Elphaba out, and then it's like, wait, did they actually land the house on her? And it's like they did, but that was another one where I was like, wait, did they actually kill her? Like, I kept waiting for Nessa Rose to, like, come back again.
Yeah, you're almost right. You're right. So I think what happens is, because Fiero finally, reveals his true colors, that he's in love with Elphaba and, abandons Glinda, and Glinda gets very upset about it. Then when she's talking to the wizard and Madame Morrible, they're like, how can we draw her out? And she's like, use her sister. Just start a rumor that something bad is happening to her and it'll draw her right out. And they're like, good idea, but a rumor won't be good enough. We need to do a real thing.
She's too smart for that.
She's too smart for that.
Yeah,
so they think that won't work. So they literally call the tornado, which then pulls the house and then smashes Nessa Rose and actually genuinely kills her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happens.
Leaving this
there
with yet another question, which is, did Nessa actually become wicked and do bad things to the Munchkins? Or is she also going to be the subject of some kind of propaganda like Elphaba? Like, we know Madame Morrible and the wizard were trying to use Elphaba for her unique power, so I can definitely see
So she doesn't really do anything to the Munchkins other than turn Bach into the Tin Man after he's pretty bad to her. Probably she shouldn't have done that, but she is acting pretty angrily in that moment. And then he tells everyone, look what she did to me. She's wicked.
Right.
Yeah. So that's sort of what's happening there.
Situation where without her, they turn to her blood relative, hoping she too will be magical. And if Nessa becomes powerful, then she might take vengeance on anyone who has scorned her for being handicapped.
So our thought was that the wizard and Madame Morrible would seek out Nessa to try and teach her magic. Which they do not do. She just accidentally discovers she can do it pretty much on the fly.
Yeah, which is also kind of surprising. I wonder if there's any even in the book or something, if there's more additional backstory, because clearly somehow, some way, or maybe even what's happening is that Elphaba has always been so tasked with taking care of Nessa Rose that Nessa Rose has never been forced to manifest these abilities before.
Yeah.
But why are they both coming from this particular mother, I guess?
Right. Well, they do answer that later on, in that the reason Elphaba has powers is because her father, spoilers for just later in this video, is the wizard, and he's from the regular Earth.
Right.
He's from the other place, and so they have parents from two different places, and that's why their kids are magical. One's from Oz, one's from Earth, I guess.
But isn't the governor the proper father of Nessa Rose?
Unless he's not. That's a good question. You're right. Why would Nessa then also be able to do it? You know what? You might have pointed out a big plot hole, or else the wizard is the father of both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, that's a good point. Okay.
like, remember at the beginning of the movie when all those kids are throwing rocks at her? Like, God, what a bunch of turds. And then Nessa also just has those so money shot silver heels in Wicked, which are just destined to become the ruby slippers. I'm
curious if in the movie they'll become ruby slippers or keep them silver.
I am very curious about this as well, because is it not the case that the ruby slippers were specifically selected because of like film production based things?
Yeah, like they were supposed to be silver and they were like, no, make them red. We can do colors now. Make them red.
Right. Like it's fun, but like it seems like everything else so far, like even the entire stage production, maintains silver the whole time.
It does, and so I'm really curious if like when she powers them up, they turn red.
Yeah,
in the movie, because like they showed Dorothy, in the movie they showed Dorothy skipping down the yellow brick road.
Yes,
you know, like very briefly, but. There she was. You can see it. So I can see them making that adjustment. I don't think anyone would be unhappy with that.
Oh, no,
either.
I can't imagine.
I think in the books they're silver, and obviously in the stage show they're just silver the whole time as well. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like they were always supposed to be silver, but then they made them red, and now I think the ruby slippers are like the most valuable movie prop in the history of Hollywood. So it's like, I don't think anyone's gonna care if you just make them ruby.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the other big question would be whether or not it's just too spoilery too fast if you open the box and it's a pair of bright red slippers. It's like, well, we know exactly what's going to happen to those.
What's going to happen to those. Yeah. So, but but like after they're powered up, she dies pretty quickly after that.
Right. Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah.
Slippers are going to get their power from. I don't know. Like maybe Elphaba herself powers them up.
That's exactly what happens.
Hey.
Maybe they'll allow Nessa to walk.
That's exactly what happens. Man, we're good.
Fly? I mean, flying. Defying gravity, if you will, does seem very powerful and important to this particular show.
No, we doubled down further on the flying instead of the walking.
Yeah, just the walking. We just leave it there.
Just leave it there. Just remember we said walking.
You got greedy.
I got greedy.
As far as the powers of the ruby slippers, though, like at the very least, we know that Elphaba can't touch them, but also greatly desires them.
Keep tight inside of them. Their magic must be very powerful, or she wouldn't want them so badly.
And they seem to offer protection against her magic.
So that is another one, like when she's casting the spell, like, does she mention something about that? Or is like there a reason she can't touch them? I don't know. That's something I feel like they need to add to the movie, like why she specifically cannot harm the ruby slippers.
Yes, yes. I was going to say like harm can't befall them at all, like even if it was more like a sweeping declaration.
Oh, if it was just like whoever wears these is protected.
Right. However, she's not protected from a falling house.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe she's protected from anything like in Oz, but the house isn't from Oz or something.
Oz.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I can see that. I feel like something like that should be in there. But then, of course, the reason that she wants them so bad is simply because they're like a memento from Nessa.
Yes.
Who Madame Morrible and the wizard killed. So, right. she reasonably wants them.
Like when she tries to grab them off Dorothy's feet, it like burns her hands. But then while we're on that note, the other odd thing about Elphaba's limitations are that she has no power in Munchkinland.
This is also not explained in the stage show.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not brought up at all.
It's not brought up at all. This is only a thing that's like, if you remember them saying it in The Wizard of Oz, it's there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know if they'll address that again in part 2 or not. But it's not super relevant, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, rubbish. You have no power here.
That's what Glinda tells her at the start of Oz, and she seems aware of it herself, causing her to bide her time to get Dorothy. So here's my guess. First, Elphaba will boost up the slippers to protect the wearer against wickedness or something like that, trying to help her sister. Nessa then turns on Elphaba for some reason. Maybe she learns about Fiero becoming the scarecrow, which hurts Glinda, who, of course, Nessa likes.
Well, that is a reasonable guess by us. Not exactly what happens.
Not so much.
Yeah, not so much. I mean, she sort of turns on her, but then like gets won back over by the fact that she can walk. And then Bach is the one who's mean to her, and she turns on Bach. Yeah, there we go.
That will cause Nessa to cast some kind of protection against Elphaba in Munchkinland because Bach is a Munchkin. But then
Bach, that I feel like something they could do.
Right.
Just like, oh, you're wicked, so I can cast a spell or something. But like, I don't know. But I guess they don't even need to address that. It's other than that one line in The Wizard of Oz.
Because it's not in Wicked at all.
It's not really in Wicked at all. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
true colors are revealed, and she turns on him, making him the Tin Man, and now she has become wicked herself in the eyes of the Munchkins.
Well,
and then ultimately, the once protective slippers will not protect her from the house landing on her because it's like an innocuous act of chance, maybe. And Dorothy herself.
It's amazing how we reason out the exact same way.
Right. It's just like, oh, but see, we were saying there that they protected her as long as she wasn't wicked, but once she becomes wicked, she's not protected.
Right, which also
that could work too. I almost like the one we just said, where it's like, oh, she's protected from anything in Oz, but this isn't from Oz or something. Yeah, that could be.
Is definitely not wicked.
I'm not a witch at all. I'm Dorothy Gale from Kansas.
Then the slippers themselves.
It is so crazy to me that like when you watch the Wicked the show, how the Wizard of Oz is like this random little side quest that happens off to the side, and it's like the real story is just Elphaba,
right,
the whole time, and it's like, but it's like if they made like Rogue One first, and then everyone loved it for like 50 years, and then they made the rest of the Star Wars.
The Star Wars.
Yeah, and you were like, oh my gosh. Like, wow, that was like a blip. They only make like one sentence reference to it.
Yes. It would be like, oh my gosh, this is like this amazing movie about like this uprising, and like we need to steal the plans so that we can beat them, and then they get the plans, but they die trying, So it's sort of like it's good versus evil. They triumph, but it cost them everything, and then it's like, oh wow, okay, the plans were just a small piece of the puzzle. There's the whole rest of the thing.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that guy who showed up at the end with the lightsaber, it was really mostly about him.
Yeah,
actually, it turns out. What do you know?
Vitally important.
Vitally important to like the whole thing.
Darth Vader is the Wicked Witch of the West.
There we go. Stay tuned. That feels like a fun video. Why Darth Vader is Elphaba.
Themselves recognize Dorothy as a truly good soul and transfer themselves to her. Boom. Wait a minute. Doesn't Glinda transfer them to Dorothy? Is that what you're saying? Well, I thought that's how I remembered it too, but I just watched The Wizard of Oz last night, and I'm not sure Glinda can really do magic, like, at all. Maybe.
Yeah, right? Can she? This is a big question still.
Is it a big question still?
Well, okay, I don't know.
What does she, I mean, like, because at the very least, in the stage production, there's a line where, like, she comes in on the bubble just like she does at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And, like, at some point in time, Elphaba's talking to her, and she's like, you got to go get in your bubble? Who made that?
Yeah, clearly the bubble's not real.
Yes.
Yeah, that much is there. There's a thing, again, in The Wizard of Oz where it's like she casts the spell to make it snow, to, like, wake them up from the poppies.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, so like that happens, but again, I feel that's something they can explain later. I feel like all you need is like a 3-second scene where Madame Morrible is like, weather,
right?
Like, okay, I guess I'm teaching you how to do stuff now, and she teaches her one spell, and I was like, I believe Glinda can do magic. It seems like the ability to do magic mostly has to do with, can you read the Grimoire?
Well, so then the big question to me would then almost be like, where does Madame Morrible come from that she's able to do any kind of magic at all?
Well, she said she's been studying the Grimoire for like decades, and all she has learned is like the one little basic thing she can do,
which is weather.
Yeah, but like, I guess this would be like the real power of Elphaba is that she can do magic without reading it, I guess. Right, because she's just like making stuff happen at random.
She is making, it's like kind of like that, like emotional outburst,
kind of magic. But like as soon as she but she can read it just at face value.
Right,
the Grimoire, like it's like biologically imprinted on her or something.
True.
Yeah, but then I guess so can Nessa. So I don't know why can Nessa. It seems like though, if you can read the Grimoire, you will be able to do that magic. That magic will happen. Right. So she does give the Grimoire to Glinda at the end and tells her, like, learn to read it, basically.
But I mean, even that though, then like the snow in the poppies field would have already happened.
Yes, that would have already happened. But that's the only kind of magic she could have learned from Madame Morrible.
Right. That makes sense.
So I guess there's that. Well, hopefully they'll address that a little more clearly, because that also wasn't addressed in the show, but it's like, I'm not sure if Wicked, the stage show, is trying to tie itself into The Wizard of Oz, the movie, as much as Wicked, the movie is.
It feels like we are destined for a WCU. Like a WCU, like a
Wicked cinematic universe?
Yes,
yeah.
Where
maybe.
it's like what becomes the ultimate canon to like the everyday fans.
Right, because now you have the novel, which came first, and then from what I hear from everyone is less good, but this is like the novel came first, and then there was the Broadway show, and now there's the movie, and they're all a little bit different from each other.
Exactly.
But all super paying homage to each other too.
All the time.
So what is the real canon? Yeah. Yeah, could they go further? Will they make
with
more
one exception,
Oz
but
movies?
like she does not actually move the slippers. They just move on their own from the Wicked Witch of the East to Dorothy. And if you're wondering, hey, what about like the pink bubble thing? Well, we see in Wicked that the pink bubble thing is just a mechanical contraption that she has to operate. Like she has like a foot pump. She's just taking cues from the Wizard of Oz. We also see in Wicked that she's like trying to...
Yeah, that's exactly. Even when she comes in, it's like this big metal ring. And it's like, that's how the show opens, with like her slowly floating down on a metal ring. And then at the end of Act 1, of course, Elphaba is like floating up there, apparently unattached in any way.
And the thing I thought was interesting about the metal ring as it pertained to the show is that you, the logical human being, know that she must be latched in because they're not going to have somebody up in front of a like room full of people and potentially fall for safety reasons.
Yeah.
But I swear I think they mic'd the latch that like clicks her in. Like it's almost sort of like
like it's supposed to be
like,
really...
Like you're supposed to be able to hear whoever it is, like who walks over and very subtly like clips her in.
Yeah, because they're like blowing bubbles out of the ring to be like, oh look, it's a giant bubble.
Right, yes.
Yeah, but then it's also supposed to be like, this is very artificial.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Cast spells on Elphaba to like help change her wardrobe, and that's not working. Plus, Madame Morrible is not interested in teaching her magic at all.
Not to.
And yet, there is at least one spell she does seem to successfully cast in The Wizard of Oz right here when Dorothy falls asleep in the poppies, which is to make it snow, which wakes Dorothy up. Like, how is this the one spell she can do? Glad you asked. Well, Madame Morrible, we see in Wicked, is not as powerful as Elphaba, but can do some magic, specifically weather-based magic when she like clears the clouds out. So
okay, so not to give everything away right here, but this, I thought like when I was watching this stage show, I thought they made like a big mistake here.
Okay.
Because like, sure enough, that scene happens where it's like raining outside and Madame Morrible comes up and she's like, oh, here's an umbrella, dear.
But she says like, we can't have you getting wet.
Yeah, we can't have. It's like she doesn't say we can't have you melt. We just says can't have you getting wet.
Right.
Yeah. There's that. But prior to her doing that, at least on stage, this was a difference between the movie and the stage. Like on stage, she is just standing straight up in the rain for like a full minute, and like nothing is happening. And then she shows up and she's like, "Oh, here's an umbrella," and it's like. I think in the movie, like, it's about to start to rain, and she's like, oh, here you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So, for some reason, they must believe, like prophetically, that the water could be her undoing. Like, she is holding the umbrella in that scene. She is clearing out the rain. It's like, and then, ultimately, when water is doused upon the Wicked Witch of the West, it is believed that would be her.
Yeah, it seems like their whole plan towards the end of Act 2 is based on people's belief in the rumor that she's hurt by water.
Right.
Right. But this is, I think, where on stage, they are setting you up to, like, see that the water doesn't hurt her early on by having her stand in the rain.
Right.
Whereas, like, I think in the movie, it'd be so much more obvious that she's being hit with water that it'd be like, well, wait, water doesn't hurt her. Why is that the case?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like all of a sudden, that's when you have that person who's like, hey, wait a second.
Wait a minute. That's where we would have been like, wait, she's covered in water and it didn't hurt.
That's an issue. That's an issue.
Yeah. What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that was good movie making practice to conceal it from the audience because, the audience, believes that if she gets wet, she will die, which, spoilers for later in this video, or right now, the water does not affect her at all. None. Yeah, that's all just a rumor.
She does start teaching Glinda. Perhaps she can teach her this, like, one single ability. Or as I say, one single ability, like it's not impressive to control the weather or something. That's like huge power. Speaking of the poppies, though, they are for sure planted or grown by Elphaba in honor of Dr. Dillamond, as they were his favorite flowers. Meaning that Elphaba is likely going to be the one to end the drought.
Oh, this they need to address more.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is like a really big one that basically is like kind of describing the bizarre magic, I guess, involved or even just psychological warfare that's happening towards the animals. Because it seems like the animals are losing the ability to speak.
Yeah.
And Dr. Dillman keeps teaching about the Great Drought.
Yes.
And it's sort of like they need Elphaba because she's the one who can actually do magic. Like the Wizard of Oz can't. And Madame Morrible only has this like one speciality, which happens to be weather, which would be a way to control, like, or make it not rain.
Right.
But the big confusion to me is sort of like, why does that translate into the animals not being able to speak?
I know. It seems like what they're gonna what they want Glinda or Elphaba to do is like be able to cast magic to stop them from speaking. Right?
Right. Yes.
Something,
Yeah.
But it's like they don't address like that at all. You're right. Like they keep saying like the only thing they say to it is that if they're pressured enough not to learn how to speak, like if you're told enough not to do it, like you'll just like lose it, I guess.
Which,
but, like,
I mean, yeah, it's strange because I think there's probably actual real world messaging there that applies.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of like why representation matters.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
like this is something I can do. That person looks like me. Inside of like a magical universe where magic is being like implemented and animals can speak. Like the very nature that just simply the drought, which reduces the amount of food, which sort of like gets prioritized towards humans. It's like it feels like there's like a lot of like unusual pieces there where it's like, okay, what? Why can they not speak?
I know, it's like it's all manufactured by the wizard. Where it's like there's the Great Drought, which like on stage there's like a big chalkboard. It's written in big letters or whatever, but they don't really address it other than like because of the Great Drought, it made a food shortage, and that makes people angry, and they needed someone to blame. And the wizard and Madame Morrible arrange it so that who's being blamed is the animals.
Right.
Right. So then you could back it up a step, and since again Madame Morrible can control the weather, it's like, did she create the drought in the first place to manufacture the entire situation?
Exactly.
Right. Which they don't confirm in the show, but I feel like that's something they could add into the movie to like add in the layer of like, oh. Right.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a lot more backstory about how all of that goes, because there's also in the movie like a rather prominent scene at the beginning where I think like Elphaba's magic comes exploding out of her, and there's this big, mural or something that gets cracked, and when it's cracked, what you see behind it is more of like an animal diverse led like collective that
used to run shiz.
That used to run shiz. Yeah. So it definitely seems like it's almost like they have come in and sort of covered up the like what it used to be by trying to put themselves in the positions of power.
All propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In Oz, a truly selfless act when you consider that rain would melt her.
Oh boy, we are wrong about this.
Yeah.
This is the one where I was like, this still caught me off guard. When seeing the show is that Elphaba's not dead.
Yes.
I know.
Although I will say in the show, what was kind of interesting is, and because we went out during intermission and you and I were like standing in line for the restroom and we're sitting there chatting. I'm like, is it possible that Elphaba is still alive?
Yeah, I know. You did say it. You said it.
I was like, because in the opening sequence, there's actually like a shadow of Elphaba like standing sort of like very subtly in the background, like of like the backdrop of the set, like the scene.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And I was sort of like, that's weird. Like, what is that all about? Like, like, is she really dead? And
No,
it's
because
like,
she's just hiding back there.
She's just basically back there, in the shadows. Yeah, so it was kind of like, oh man, what is that all about?
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, they got me. They got me on that one. I really didn't see that coming. So there we go.
done? I'm melting!
Oh, look at that. She did something good and it's going to turn out bad. Whoops. Keeps happening. And then there's...
We dance around. Oh, this one I was pretty proud of, though, because we dance around this a lot in this video. We're like, every time she makes a bad decision, or a good decision, something bad happens. And like, there's literally a song called "No Good Deed Goes Unpunished."
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, we were so close.
So close.
We said it in every way possible without saying that. And it's like, that's just a known phrase.
Yes,
I was just
yes.
like, how do we okay, so we got it. We were picking up when they were throwing
the
down.
Wizard, which I just realized it's called the Wizard of Oz, but his name's also Oz, so it's like it's confusing. You guys clear something up for me? The whole land is called Oz, right? But then the Emerald City is also Oz, and then the wizard himself is named Oz. Is that all true? Right? It seems like a lot of confusing language. Or is the Emerald City just the Emerald City? I don't know. Either way, let's talk about...
There was one, too, where if you looked at the chalkboard in the classroom, like, it said Emerald City renamed from something else.
Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
So it was like a more inclusive sounding city, and it was like, no, the wizard got here and he likes green, so Emerald City.
So there we go.
Yeah, there it is. I was like, ooh, that's interesting. I want more
Wizard.
of that chalkboard.
And the other big theory that he is actually Elphaba's father.
Mm-hmm.
The identity of Elphaba's father is a mystery introduced right away as just an off-screen stranger her mother is having an affair with. It's like it happens so fast, I just kind of want you to forget about it, but I do think we're going to get a follow-up because the green elixir mentioned in the song is kept by Elphaba, who is questioned about it later on by Galinda with no answer. But it almost has to be the wizard.
Yeah, this show comes down to a lot of process of elimination.
It really does. Yes, absolutely. This was like an interesting one because I swear if we go back to the review, I was like, he seemed pretty genuine about this idea of like wanting like a family and stuff like that. And I can't remember, but I want to say that you were like, it's just like the propaganda. Like he's just he's just giving her like exactly what she wants.
Right.
But then I guess to be also fair is that in the stage production at least, he doesn't know that he is her father.
Yeah,
it just ends up being the case that he is.
Right, he is like playing into the idea that she wants a father and using his own desire for a daughter to help make it more compelling and believable without realizing that exact situation is true.
It's true, yes.
Yeah.
It's a bit ironic.
Or else the character
It is.
we haven't met yet, as yet again, there's just process of elimination. Like, he's the only elderly male character in the show. But of course, there's still more to it than that. I mean, first, the wizard's overall obsession with the color green, like, Emerald City. And then when Elphaba arrives, he acts like they could be father and daughter if she stays, although it's unclear if he's aware of his own potential parentage.
Well, so there you go.
There you go.
All right, yeah.
Yes.
He's unclear. He is unclear.
It is unclear.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, maybe he is. It's quite possible he could have been trying to manipulate this exact situation. Like, he seems to really encourage the elixir on the mother, and it is green. Plus,
okay, so he is not trying to manufacture this situation, at least not in the stage show. They're just having an affair.
Yes,
right,
yeah. So it's not super clear what the elixir must be doing or how it could have turned her green, because like if you want to summon it up to sort of like two people who happen to be hooking up and there's alcohol involved, it's like Elphaba would not be the first person to be the product of that situation.
Well, I think in the show they said like that Galinda has only ever seen that green elixir like one other place. So I don't know if this is like widespread. It does seem like it makes you feel like the elixir is going to be responsible for her being green and for her being magical, but it is only responsible for her being green.
Yes.
But
then it's like, where's the elixir coming from?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, don't know.
Because it can't be magical.
Because it's not magical, so he's just making it, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's turning people green. I don't know. But not Nessa Rose. But then maybe he's not her dad, but she can still read the Grimoire for reasons. Don't know. Maybe Elphaba's gone in and just like written the English underneath it, like this is actually what you say.
Yeah.
Spelt it out phonetically. There you go. You're welcome.
You're welcome. In case anybody's reading this, the future.
Yeah.
not for nothing, but like the voice of the man singing the Green Elixir song at the beginning also just sounds like Jeff Goldblum.
It is Jeff Goldblum, and we could have looked it up, but we didn't.
But we didn't.
Oh, we didn't. So that would have been an easy way to confirm it. But yeah, there you go.
So yeah, I think it's him. Maybe that's a very common pitfall. Maybe you're like, oh, that's what they want you to think, but it's working. I think this is so weird. Like, so many of you just know the answer to the question, and I'm so helpless. And like, I can't, like, please leave comments on the video. Go ahead, like the video. Please do that. I'm not reading the comments on this.
Hey, you know what? Please go ahead and like this video too, right? Like right now, subscribe if you haven't. You know what? Thank you so much.
But obviously, I will not have it spoiled for me, but like, either way, I can only guess how it will all go down, but I suspect that since Galinda was the one to see the bottle but get no explanation, she will also be the one then to discover more of the elixir in the Emerald City and like be the one who like puts the pieces together.
Hey, that's exactly what happens.
That is exactly what happens.
What do you know? What do you know?
Well done, past us.
We got another one.
And then, of course, she'll have to like tell Elphaba, who will then be learning that her entire existence was manipulated so that she could be put to a specific wicked task that she is morally opposed to, and that I can see making her just go fully wicked towards the rest of Oz, because at that point, her point of view would be that everything in Oz is just extremely corrupt.
We are so close on this. We are so close. So that's not exactly what happens. Either. It's not like she finds out that she was born to be wicked, but actually, and then it's like, well, everything's corrupt, so it doesn't matter what I do. We're so close.
I know.
We're so close. But what she actually says in the show, what she realizes in the show is that no good deed goes unpunished. Like, look at every time I try and do something good, something bad happens. So what she decides is, if no good deed goes unpunished, I'll do no good deeds. Is what she says. So that is that. But then even that, I don't even like, that's sort of like her becoming like, I don't know, the wicked witch. But then the real wicked sensation that she prescribes to herself is how she feels when she's with Fiero. Wicked. It's the first time I've ever felt wicked. Like how someone from Boston would say it, you know, like it's a good thing.
Wicked.
So, to answer Glinda's question from the beginning of the show, are you born wicked or do you have wickedness thrust upon you?
Thrust upon you is the answer. Over and over and over.
Elphaba then would have been born specifically to be wicked, have also had it thrust upon her, and then also grasped it for herself for the greater good?
I feel like they could just take that tact in the movie. Like, they could change it such that she was manufactured to be wicked.
I can see that. I can see that. I think that, especially with how much shorter Act 2 is than Act 1 in the stage production, I think that we're going to get way more.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
there's going to be more lore.
Yes.
To go down here.
Sort of. I mean, she does also really seem to eventually want to kill Dorothy. So, like, that's not great. At some point,
apparently that's all a ruse too, though.
More of just like a setup, because it's like it's cooperation with Fiero.
Yeah, that's something they're gonna have to explain.
Yeah,
because like he seems like he's not super aware, but maybe he doesn't lose his brains at all, and he's super aware the whole time, and he's just still acting covertly in a way to like arrange a fake death with Elphaba so that they can escape into the sunset together.
I mean, there is that layer that like I feel like when they're talking around like releasing the lion, I feel like she even says like you're smarter than you're like letting people believe or something like that.
Yeah, you're right.
So it could be the case that like what you're and I think maybe that's even like the reason that like she doesn't put him to sleep in that scene. He's like allowed to like come with her. Is like she believes he's capable of more or something. So it could very well be the case that like he's very good at acting brainless.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true too. Like even the way he's like manipulating Glinda to like pretend to be in love with her to get to the position where he can get back to Elphaba. It's like sort of the same thing. He's like letting Dorothy believe that he's helping her, even though in the end he's helping Elphaba.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Seems like she turns a corner.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too.
But then to round it all off, I feel like there's also a strong possibility that for some reason, Elphaba will be responsible for the tornado that brings Dorothy to Oz.
We were so close on this.
So close.
Yeah. Almost.
Talked about Madame Morrible being able to like control the weather, so maybe she creates one and then Elphaba sends it over the rainbow or something. I don't know. But
Madame Morrible does create it, but Elphaba has nothing to do with it bringing Dorothy there. She just... Yeah, I mean, I guess the way she's responsible is that Fiero still loves her, and so Glinda wants to get back at her for like an hour, and then is like, oh, that was a mistake.
It's funny how like their disagreements, like even like the beginning of like Defying Gravity, where it's like I hope you're happy.
Yeah.
And like the way in which like the beginning of the song is like, I hope you're happy with what you've done. Yeah. And then by the end it's like, I hope you're happy.
I do hope you're happy.
I do hope you're happy.
Yeah. They have like these little it's like this is what happens. Like people are angry, they do one bad thing, and they're like, oh no, that was my bad.
I shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have done that. Now your sister's dead. Oh no.
Oh darn.
It just feels like that's kind of how Elphaba's story is going. Every good deed is met with some kind of unfair backlash that just blows up in her face, and that
Goes
would be the
unpunished,
ultimate
past self.
slap in the face. Not only does she have a hand in creating all the members of the team that will bring her down, but she brings Dorothy here as well. Whoops.
Okay. I'd say we are just circling right there. We are doing, we're so close to having it all right. Like, she does have a hand in creating the line. She does turn Fiero into the Scarecrow, but he's not really against her. And then Nessa Rose turns Bach into the Tin Man.
Right.
Yes. And then Madame Morrible brings Dorothy there. But maybe on accident. She doesn't really know what's going to go down with that, but just to kill Nessa Rose.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And then what happens to Madame Morrible? Does she get? No, she gets into jail. Yes. Well, in like just the best fashion by Glinda, right?
What does she do?
She's just like, I don't think you're gonna cut it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Like everything Madame Morrible says to Glinda about not being a potential good student, she says to her about not being able to cut it in jail.
And it's like,
Yeah. Oh, that was good. That was very fun.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
On the flip end, Glinda seems to keep making decisions for the wrong reasons that end up working out really well for her. So it's just like, it's funny how that keeps happening, huh? But there you go, guys. Let me know. What do you think? Am I on the money here? Are you in the same position as me? Do you not know what happens in part 2?
so boom. How about that?
We did pretty good.
I think we did pretty good.
I think we did pretty good. I think that, we called who all the characters would be. We got that the wizard was going to be her dad. We said maybe Madame Morrible creates the tornado.
Right, yeah, we were at least in the zip code.
I think we addressed, like, I feel like what they need to add to the movie is more lore about the Great Drought.
Yep.
And more lore about the ruby slippers and like why they do or don't work.
I think that they're going to end up doing that because I feel like Dr. Dillamon is a much bigger character in the movie than in the stage production. Like in the stage production, it almost feels like you only ever see him in the context of pretty much the classroom.
Right.
Whereas like in the film, you actually go and like you see that like he's like leading a group of like other,
Yeah, like animals and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
And then he only shows up very briefly in the second act to reveal to Glinda that, to reveal to Elphaba that he can't talk anymore.
So, okay, the other question that I think is kind of interesting is that, like, at the end of the stage production, when it is believed that Elphaba has been destroyed, the animals can speak again, but she hasn't been destroyed.
What animals speak again?
Doesn't Dr. Dillamon speak again at the end?
Does he? I don't remember that part specifically. The monkeys can talk.
Maybe it's the monkeys.
The monkeys can talk, but that there is a line too where she like comes in and she's like, if you're not practicing talking, you're not gonna be able to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those things I feel like in like Broadway where there's a one sentence explainer, move on.
Yeah. And I mean, certainly for the purposes of a play, it's like you also can't have like the passage of time. So like maybe in the film, what you end up happening is some version of like time passing or like language progressively getting better or something like that.
Yeah. Because it's like alluded to that she's off helping the animals do lots of stuff. And there must be enough passage of time that the lion is able to grow from like a cub at least into like a adult.
True. Also true. Yeah.
The other thing that there must be some amount, there's a weird scene in the show where like the Tin Man is like telling Munchkinland about how bad Elphaba or Nessa Rose is, but he's like pulling on the lion's tail. He's like, look what they did to this lion, he grew up so cowardly because they set him free. But it's like in The Wizard of Oz, like when they meet the lion, it's like the lion and the Tin Man don't seem like they've ever met before.
Right.
And it's like, when is the Tin Man supposed to be doing this? When does he get so like stuck?
Right.
Which to me, pretty easy solved because what makes him stuck is like rain. So, you could just like have Elphaba end the drought with rain, which grows the poppies and freezes the Tin Man. Like that would all just work.
That would all work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
except is there a thing that tin doesn't rust?
Is there a thing that tin doesn't rust?
I think this might be a thing.
Oh, okay. Well, they certainly keep telling him he's rusting.
Boom! Okay, very exciting.
Yes.
The stage production, absolutely amazing. Definitely go see it.
Yes.
It is so much fun. Still so excited for Wicked Part 2.
I know.
In no way has this like slowed my roll at all.
Not at all. I'm not like, I know. I'm even more excited for Wicked Part 2 now.
Yes. And is it the case that they're actually adding new songs?
There are, I think there's 2 new songs.
Okay. That'll be fun.
So that'll be cool too.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, awesome. Love Wicked. Can't wait for part 2. Let us know what you thought, or if you're excited about it, or if there's any other theories we need to address down in the comments below. But otherwise, until next time, bye!